Working as an emergency room nurse means my schedule is all over the place. The night shifts from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. are especially tough, but I've gotten used to them over the years. What I wasn't used to was how my life would completely change after one particular morning in March. I had just finished an extra long shift because Alex, one of our senior nurses, called in saying he couldn't make it. We were already short-staffed, so I stayed on to help. By the time I was driving home, my eyes were heavy, and all I wanted was to crash into bed. There was just one problem. I had promised my wife I'd go with her to visit her elderly aunt who was recovering from a serious illness at home. My wife had been spending a lot of time taking care of her aunt lately. She told me she needed space to process everything, so she'd often ask for a few nights alone each week. We wouldn't call or text during these times because she said she needed complete solitude to clear her head. I understood she was going through a difficult time, so I tried to be supportive. To avoid disturbing her sleep when I came home from night shifts, I started using the back door with a spare key. Our house was in one of those modern neighborhoods where the houses are close together, with just small lawns between them. That morning, as I walked around to the back of the house, I noticed something odd. There was a car parked right on our back lawn. Who would park there instead of using the driveway? When I tried to unlock the door, the key wouldn't turn. There must have been another key in the lock from the inside. The door wasn't even properly locked. It opened when I turned the handle. As I stepped inside, I caught a whiff of a familiar cologne. It was the same one Alex wore at work. My tired brain tried to make sense of it. Why would I smell Alex's cologne in my house when he had called in sick? I told myself I was imagining things because I was exhausted. I heard the shower running upstairs as I walked up. My wife was usually asleep at this hour, but maybe she had an early start to visit her aunt. I was heading to the guest bathroom to put my work clothes in the washing machine when something stopped me in my tracks. There was a pair of men's underwear on the floor, and they definitely weren't mine. Before I could process what this meant, the bedroom door opened, and my wife stood there wrapped in a towel, looking shocked to see me. When I held up the underwear and asked about it, she quickly said, "Oh, that must be my brother's. He stopped by to check the basement renovation plans and took a shower here." But her brother Tom was a big guy who worked construction. These belonged to someone much smaller. And I had just seen Tom yesterday before my shift. He'd come by to look at the basement then. Plus, that cologne. I went into the bathroom and turned on the shower, my mind racing. Everything started falling into place. The nights alone, Alex calling in sick, the car on a lawn, the cologne, the unlocked back door. I knew right then that my marriage was over, but I wasn't going to walk away without making sure they both faced consequences for their betrayal. A few days went by, and I pretended everything was normal while I gathered my thoughts. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. with a gut feeling that something wasn't right. The bed was empty beside me, and when I checked my wife's phone on the nightstand, I saw she'd left it behind, which was strange because she took that phone everywhere. The phone was locked, but I remembered seeing her type the code once, our wedding date. Inside, I found messages from a contact saved as Aunt Marie. But when I checked the number, it was Alex's. The messages made it clear they'd been meeting up for months, using her aunt's illness as a cover. I walked downstairs quietly and went toward the basement. I could hear them before I even got to the door. They were so caught up in what they were doing, they didn't notice me standing there. Their clothes were scattered near the entrance, and I saw both their phones on top of the pile. That's when I had an idea. I quietly closed the basement door and locked it from the outside. I picked up their clothes and phones, took them upstairs, and got ready for my shift. I had Alex's phone, so I knew he wouldn't be calling in sick today. On my way to work, I called Tom, my wife's brother. "Hey, can you start the basement work this morning? I know it's early, but the sooner the better." "No problem," he said. "My crew and I can be there in a couple hours." I knew exactly what would happen next. Tom and his local construction crew would show up, head to the basement, and find my wife and Alex trapped down there with no clothes and no way out. The renovation crew was all from our small town. Everyone knew everyone. At work, I waited for the call. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. It was Tom, and he was livid. I could hear chaos in the background. My wife crying, men yelling, tools dropping. Tom was shouting about how his sister had embarrassed their whole family and how his crew had seen everything. "We threw that guy out on the street," Tom yelled. "I can't believe this." Alex apparently tried to run home, but he didn't get far. Our neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who was always looking out her window, called the police about a naked man running down the street. They picked him up right in front of the coffee shop downtown. The story spread through town like wildfire. Our local news even covered it, though they kept the names private. Everyone at the hospital watched the blurry footage of Alex being put into a police car with a blanket wrapped around him. The hospital suspended him right away. They said his behavior didn't match their professional standards. My wife had it worse in some ways. In a small town like ours, word travels fast. Tom's construction crew told their families, who told their friends, who told everyone else. She couldn't even go to the grocery store without people whispering and pointing. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents in the next town over. She couldn't handle how everyone looked at her differently. The hospital staff figured out what happened pretty quickly. They'd seen Alex and my wife talking whenever she brought her aunt in for treatment. Plus, Alex's suspicious sick day matched up with the incident. My coworkers were great about it. They covered my shifts when I needed time off and never brought it up unless I wanted to talk. I took a week off to clear my head. During that time, I packed up all my wife's things into boxes. I texted her sister to come get everything while I was at work. When I came home that evening, the boxes were gone. My wife never tried to contact me or explain herself. Maybe she was too embarrassed, or maybe she knew there was nothing left to say. It's been months now, and sometimes people still bring up the naked basement incident at town events. Alex moved away, probably for the best, since his reputation here was ruined. As for my wife, I heard she's living with her parents and barely leaves their house. Sometimes I wonder if she's seeing anyone new, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me anymore. The basement renovation got finished eventually. Tom and his crew did a great job, though they still joke about what they found down there that morning. The house feels emptier now, but in a good way, like it's been cleaned out. I changed the locks, painted the walls, and rearranged the furniture. It's amazing how different a place can feel when you get rid of all the lies that were hiding in it. People keep asking if I'm ready to start dating again. I just tell them I'm focusing on myself right now. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital, started going to the gym, and adopted a dog from the local shelter. He's great company during the day when I need to sleep between night shifts. Looking back, I'm glad I found out the truth, even though it hurt. Some of my friends say I was cruel with how I handled it, but I think they both deserve what they got. You can't build happiness on lies and expect everything to work out. These days, I'm doing better than ever. It turns out losing a cheating wife and a fake friend isn't really losing anything at all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.